2 days ago, I did a video about Lucas Paquetá. And I thought at that point, we'd probably reached critical mass with it in terms of, as a news story, in terms of the sort of cascading avalanche of evidence that kept on coming in that. And I just thought it can't get any worse than this, really. I just thought it was almost like the long, solemn march to the gallows, if you want. I thought the things do not look good at all. What I didn't expect to be doing a video 2 days later, with sort of adds more fuel to the fire and sort of makes it seem even worse. But I think that's what's happened. So I guess no way of doing this without sort of recapping what's happened before and then saying what's happened most recently. I mean, most recently, I'll just tell you now, it appears that the Brazilian FA have got involved. Now, go back to the original charges to see where we were, which was Lucas Paquetá is accused of basically taking yellow cards and then people back in his home island, his hometown of Paquetá Island, of placing bets on the timing of those yellow cards. There were irregular betting patterns surrounding his yellow cards, and it was actually flagged up by Betway, who are obviously West Ham's sponsor. This was obviously investigated by the FA, and at that point, Paquetá was quite close to joining Manchester City. This much you know. It sort of dragged on for a little bit whilst they tried to compile their evidence. And I think sort of it felt, as a West Ham fan, nothing happened for a long time. But obviously during that time, they were gathering evidence. We now know that he was called in to see, to obviously answer the charges, and was asked to produce his mobile phone. So he produced his mobile phone and they went about completing their investigation. Paquetá got the phone back and they carried on investigating. At that point, the Spanish FA, or whoever, the Spanish authorities, they then started to also investigate it. Now, I'm not sure entirely how this works. I'm not going to pretend to, but it involves Paquetá's cousin and Paquetá's uncle Bruno, apparently. And a payment made to, I think it's a Real Betis player. Might have that wrong. Excuse me. I'm certainly not going to name him because I don't want to implicate somebody that's done nothing wrong at all. That was money that was won by Paquetá's uncle on Paquetá getting a card. I think it was against Bournemouth. Now, that I don't think that's in dispute. I think what they're disputing was that his uncle had inside information. Why he would then be paying a La Liga player for that, I don't know. But it don't look good, right? So at very best, Paquetá's uncle seems to have bet on when his nephew's going to get a card, and he got a card within that period. I believe there are three games where the yellow cards happen, but I guess in many respects the fine detail doesn't matter. What's happened then is most recently is the English FA basically asked for Paquetá to reproduce his phone. So new evidence came to light. They wanted to check his phone again for emails and for bank transfers and for calls. To check the call log, check the emails, check the bank transfers. They then asked for Paquetá to give his phone back. He said, I haven't got it, I lost it. Ordinarily at this point, I'd sort of make a joke about it being down the back of the sofa or anything like that, but it just doesn't feel like any joking matter. I've got to say, it feels pretty damn serious, actually. Paquetá couldn't produce his phone. They then added another 2 charges. Basically, a sort of obstructing the course of justice type charge, another 2. They've gone on top of the rap sheet. As if all of that is not bad enough, and I'm sure you will agree that does not sound good. Now the Brazilian FA are looking into this as well. They now have an investigation. So, here's what we got. We got an FA investigation, we've got a Spanish investigation, now we've got a Brazilian investigation. Let's be fair, it's only a matter of time before FIFA get involved in this. Almost the one hope, you'll remember back in the transfer window that we were offered a loan transfer for Paquetá to Flamengo. I think Flamengo at the time were top of the Brazilian league. They wanted to loan him, we said no. And there was a suggestion that actually even if he got banned from the English FA, he could then go and play in Brazil. That was being said quite a lot. It now looks like that's less likely if found guilty. Now, you are, as everybody should be, innocent until proven guilty. But I think the fact that so many are now investigating him, we would be somewhat foolish to think that there was not some kind of communication going on. There wasn't some evidence somewhere that was making everybody quite confident in this. Personally, I think it looks very, very bad. And I think West Ham are probably going to have to start making some contingency plans here. The most recent, actually not the most recent news, I mean, it's just been on and on and on, that Paquetá had signed a top lawyer, a top solicitor to defend him. The same guy, is his name DeMarco? I think that might be his name. The one that got Leicester off of some of their charges, the one that helped facilitate eventually that Saudi move for Newcastle going through. There were a lot of objections, a lot of legalities, fit and proper persons test and that stuff that he got that through. He's the top football lawyer, the top sports lawyer, that West Ham had hired him to represent Paquetá. West Ham were asked this week if that was the case, and what came back from the club was Paquetá hires his own legal team. West Ham have not hired any legal representation to look after Paquetá. So it may well be that this DeMarco has been hired. Maybe he was in place all the time. But certainly West Ham haven't hired him. Maybe he hasn't been hired at all. Maybe it was just another story. But I think a lot of people started to get some confidence from the fact that he'd been hired, that maybe they could get him off. Maybe he could get him off. I'm not so sure. I don't know enough about it, aside from what I've already shared with you lot. But I do think it doesn't look good. He's in this squad at the moment, in this Brazilian squad. So he played against Chile last night, got yellow carded, but got taken off at half-time. And apparently wasn't playing very well. I haven't seen the game, but just what I've read. There's a lot of... If you remember at the start of the season, so initially Paquetá was left out of a couple of Brazil squads. Then the current manager at the start of the season was quite bullish. He puffed his chest out and he had quite a lot to say. He wanted Paquetá back in his squad. He's gone radio silent on the matter, really. He's certainly not sticking his neck out on the line. I would imagine that was probably... I don't know. Look, we're not going to know this. I would speculate that maybe he's going to be privy to information from the Brazilian FA, that maybe he's not quite as cocky and as confident as he was before. And I'll tell you what is going to be a telltale sign is if Paquetá is not in the November squad, then I think that's going to be a really tough one. So I think they played Chile. They played Chile last night, very, very early this morning. 1-2-1. He came off at half-time. I think it's Peru next. The November squad, if Paquetá's not in it, I honestly do. I think that's it. And I think he won't be. And it looks... You're looking for momentum in stuff like this, and it looks like it's only going one way. Look, Gio did a video yesterday, and rightly so, he spoke about the FA want to push for a lifetime ban. There's a confidence in that as well. They've said very little. There's a cockiness and a confidence. Basically, all the confidence seems to now reside in the other side of the story. The cockiness and the confidence before was on Paquetá's side, that he's going to get off, that the FA have nothing. And I think the length of time that the investigations have been going on for would probably indicate that there was a point where they probably didn't have very much. But reading between the lines, that's all I can do. Looking at the fact that they then asked to take the phone for a second time, looking at what's happened in Spain, looking at what's happened in Brazil, I would suggest that they found something else, that they've eventually found some evidence somewhere. And it now appears that the confidence is on the other side now. And whilst I'd not necessarily, it wouldn't be a direct FA quote, but you heard nothing coming out from them before, now you are. They're going to push for a lifetime ban. And it's easy as a West Ham fan to think, well, this is all happening because whatever, people have got an agenda against West Ham. Maybe they haven't. Maybe it's just the FA following their own rule book. And maybe, just maybe, and it's not something I've heard too many people say too frequently, because we're West Ham fans and because we want him to be innocent and because we're biased. We are partisan by our very nature. Maybe he did it, you know? And it is innocent until proven guilty. I mean, maybe he didn't, and hopefully he didn't. But maybe he did. And I think the longer the story goes on, I think for me, and I can only speak for me, I can't speak for you, I think the longer it goes on and the more I hear, the balance starts to tip in one direction for me. And I'm no longer confident. And I'm sorry for West Ham primarily. It does seem like a very West Ham thing, doesn't it, really? Our record ever signing. As, could well get banned forever, and that's money we won't see back. Now, obviously, there'll be people that say, we could sue him and try and get the money. I mean, it's not good, is it? It's, It would be absolutely typical of West Ham in these days of financial fair play and stuff like that, where you're not be able to write something like that off, that actually that purchase would hang over us for quite some time. But we need to make a plan. We need to do something about it. Because whilst the hearing is probably going to be in March, which means if the hearing's in March, how quickly do they wrap these things up? It's highly likely he gets to play until April. Well, it's end of the season pretty much, isn't it? So maybe we don't have to do anything now, but we need to start making contingencies for it. Because I think, whilst we don't know the outcome of the case, we will have a really good steer on it by finding out if he's in that squad in November, in the Brazil squad. I don't know how these things work. I will assume that the FA, the English FA, the Spanish FA and the Brazilian authorities share information. I'm going to assume that to be the case. That would be weird, right, if that didn't happen. Maybe there's regulations that it has to happen. Maybe that's a FIFA thing. I don't know. They're the global governing body for this sort of thing. I just think it looks really bad. It looks really bleak. It looks really, really bleak for him. And it's almost like he can't catch a break. He started to look a little bit better. I wouldn't say fully back to his old self against Ipswich, but got the goal. There was an improvement. He looked a little bit happier. And I'll tell you what's quite weird today, because someone shared a clip of him on social media. He was dancing in the dressing room, I think in Prague after the cup final. And he's doing a dance, and Declan Rice is filming him, and Ben Rama's there having a dance. I was just about to dance then. You don't want to see that. And I just looked at him. I thought, wow, he's so happy. He's just laid on the assist for the winning goal. He's just won a trophy. I remember the point of joining West Ham. It was a case of join West Ham. You might be able to win a trophy, and then I think it was because we know this because Barry Silkman basically did the deal, and we've spoken to Barry about that, and it was a case of him doing the deal, and and I think for him hoping that one day he could then get a transfer to a bigger club. But I mean, it was everything was going. It was working for him. It was working for West Ham. We'd won the trophy. He'd increased his profile. Look, now's not the time to start saying silly boy and all that type of stuff, because, as I say, he might be innocent. I really, really hope he is. But these stories, they're thick and fast now. Whilst I don't expect to be doing another video on it tomorrow, I do believe it's starting to look really bleak.